Tom from Tom's Tunes. Today we're going to show you on an older set of railings. This boat's from the early 2000s. We're going to show you how to install the Deckmate docking lights or headlights for your boat on an older style railing. It doesn't always have to go on a brand new boat or a brand new set of railings. The docking light's going to come, each light in its own box. When you unwrap it, you're going to have a little bag for your screws. That's what's going to go into the fencing. Save those. And then we've got a big coil of wire here. It comes with a little waterproofing urethane or silicone grommet. I omit that because when we're installing it on this wall, we already have a silicone backing or urethane backing to help with waterproofing and fit. So no worries there. I get rid of that little grommet. I'm going to line up my silicone with my plastic backing plate, and then I'll orient this light to where these little electrodes go to the inside. When deciding on position, I take a few things into account. A, where are my wires going? In this case, they're going to go through the paneling into this armrest and then down through the floor. So that way I know I have to be somewhere over this way so I can get my wiring hidden in through that armrest. You could do this into a seat base as well, or a lean back seat, corner, whatever it might be. If you have a fishing style boat and you don't have an armrest or a seat in front, you could run these down through the floor and just hide the wire, pin it up well with some wire clips. That's up to you. In this case, we're going into some furniture so the wire will be hidden. The other thing to take into account is how much of a front deck you have. The more front deck space in front of the railings, the higher you're going to want to go with these lights. But in this case, the deck is fairly short, so I could get away with mounting them about midway. We're going to pick our spot just roughly, and then we'll measure and make marks on each side for each headlight. The easiest way I found to do this is to take a right angle tool. We're going to go up 6 inches in these lights, and we're going to go over 8 inches from that doorway. So over 8, up 6, I make a mark, and that's where I'll drill my hole. We'll do the same thing on the other side, 8 inches over, 6 inches up. So these railings are textured, that's okay. These lights are going to mount just fine on there. And I'm going to run a hole through here into the armrest. This is a 5/16 bit. You could get away with a 1/4 inch bit. The 5/16 just gives me a little bit of leeway, a little extra space to run my wiring. I then like to take my wires. We have a red for power, black for ground, and I twist the ends together. And this is just going to make this pass through the hole I just drilled a lot easier. I'm then going to use a 3/32 drill bit, just a teeny little drill bit. I'll line my lights up the best I can so they're nice and level. In this case, I can use that ribbing as a line to line everything up. So I'm just lining the top of the light up with the bottom of one of these ribs. That way I'm nice and squared off. And I like to drill one hole first. We're going to use one of these little stainless Phillips head screws with a small Phillips head screwdriver. And I just tighten them by hand. Give it one more look. Make sure we like where it's lined up. And then we'll put our other hole in. Second stainless screw goes in. Give it one last look. There's a little bit of play. If you need to adjust them, you can, but I think that looks pretty darn good. We're gonna go over and do the same thing with the other light on the starboard side. Just a heads up, when you're going through an armrest, whether it's the new Deckmate armrest from Pontoon Stuff or an existing one, it's a bugger to get these wires through. That's why I twist the ends. There's a lot of vinyl and cushion and everything you're trying to go through, plus that gap in the railing. So you might have to take your drill bit, just run it through a few times to clean that up so you have a better path, so you don't have as much resistance to get those wires through the hole. We've got them mounted to the front walls of the pontoon. Wiring is going into the seat or in the armrest right now. So whether you're using an armrest or a seat base, you need to drill that hole through the deck and through the floor. We're gonna go do that so we can run our wires down through. I'm just gonna run a hole through each of these armrests down through the floor. I use that same 5/16 bit. Now their wires are run down, they're hanging. You'll see there's a lot of extra wire here. So there's a good, probably 2 foot of wire they give you. I'm gonna run that as far over as I can. We're gonna start on the starboard side. That way we can splice in our wiring to the harness there first. Try to eliminate as much excess wire as possible. Then we'll go to the port side. If you've watched many of our videos, you know that I really love the wiring harness from pontoonstuff.com. In this case, we've run our harness forward and we're gonna be left with a few sets of wires. I've already got a navigation light wired in. That is a gray wire with a green stripe and then a solid black ground. I have 2 more sets of wires here. I have a thicker black ground wire and a orange with a white stripe. Those are gonna be for my horn that we'll install later. And then what's left is a gray wire with a black stripe. That's my power for my docking lights or headlights. And then another thin black ground wire. Those are what I'm gonna splice in to my headlight or docking light. Got plenty of wire here. I'm gonna cut off a bunch of the excess, leave myself just enough wire for the ground and the gray with a black stripe. We'll strip back the sheathing on each wire. I like to twist those ends, makes it easy to splice. And we're always gonna use a heat shrink butt splice for this sort of application, just because it's gonna get wet, we wanna protect it. Our red coming from our docking light is our power. That will connect to our gray with a black stripe. And then our solid black from our docking light is our ground. That will connect to the solid black from the harness. We're gonna heat shrink these. I'm using a lighter. I'm gonna try to keep the flame close to the heat shrink butt splice. That way I won't burn my wire. I'm gonna try to just keep it off the wire, keep it on the butt splice. That way I don't burn through and ruin my wire. This is gonna prevent any corrosion from happening, just seal things off and make your electrical system last a lot longer without having to replace wiring or connections. We've got our starboard light wired in. We're gonna head over and do the port side as well. Keep in mind on your wiring harness for using pontoon stuffs, or even if it's just a factory harness that's still on your boat in good shape, you're gonna run up with these same colored wires, then they're gonna split and run across to the other side. So everything is the same in terms of what you're wiring to each color. So we've got our port side docking light or headlight, our red and our black. We're putting our butt splices on those so they're ready to wire in. So on the portion of the harness that runs across to the port side, I have a pair of gray with green and black ground. That's my navigation light. We're gonna leave that, and I actually separate my docking lights, my gray with the black stripe and ground, from those other wires. So I go ahead and just get rid of the tape, keep everything nice and organized. Then I'm gonna decide how much wire I really need to run across, because we have so much coming off the docking light. If I can hide it up behind a cross member, tuck it in there, I will. So what I'm gonna do is just run that, give myself a little extra but not too much, and I'm gonna trim off the extra wire for the docking lights so I don't have too much laying around. We'll strip them back and splice them in just like we did on the other side. Remember, gray with the black stripe is power, that goes to red of the docking light. And solid black is our ground, that goes to the black of the docking light. Heat shrink them up. And just like that, with those few steps, you can install a modern look with LED docking lights on your boat. They pair awesome with the side mount or the wall mount LED navigation lights too. Few steps, easy to install, something you can tackle on your own boat.